Welcome back to Mark's Garage, where today I'm excited that we're going to be adding the luggage rack kit as well as the top box to that, the 2026 Triumph Scrambler 400, the XC version. I did have the luggage rack and top case installed on the previous bike that I had, the Scrambler 400X. That was a 24 model, and I can't imagine not having that on this bike. So let's get started. There are two bolts to remove the driver's seat. There, now those items are out of the way. It makes it a little bit easier for using our tools. The OEM grab handle bolts here use a Torx drive. It's a 40 Torx, so we're going to loosen those up on each side here. And then the tightening spec for that, I just looked that up. The tightening spec is 20 Newton meters, so we'll get our torque wrench out for that when we come to put the new bolts in. You just want to make sure you got really good engagement. I like to push that in just a little bit as you break them loose. They do have Loctite on them. There we go. Now we can use the ratchet and get those out. All right, we're just about ready to remove this last bolt from here. So you just want to hold that with your one hand, take the bolt out, and then you'll be able to lift that right off, and that's what we got. That's the original handle. And now we can put, there's a luggage rack, a right side and a left side, and then we put a plate across the top. So we won't tighten any of the hardware. We'll get everything fitted. This is the luggage rack kit box. And let's go ahead and get this open. Show you what's inside. Okay, certainly instructions. Now the thing that Triumph does with instructions is they provide a QR code in here. There's no actual instructions. You can go to their website for fitting instructions, and basically you can look at it online, or you can actually download a PDF and print it out if you want. So, all right, let's take a look here. Here's the top plate. Looks like some hardware in there too. So we got the top plate. And yes, the mounting. Okay, there's the bolts, the new bolts and hardware. So that's good. Then basically from here there should be a couple of arms, one for each side. So here's one of the arms, and there's the other arm. So that's it. That's the kit. Let's get to it. All right, we'll start with the right side piece, and it comes with brand new bolts, and they do have red thread locker pre-applied at the factory. So let's see if we can get this started. Okay, here we go. Loctite is catching right there. gets a little tight. All right, we got our left side attachment, so we'll get that in place, get that going. Right there. There we go. All right, now we can get these tightened up. Not all the way snug, but just so there's a little bit of play here. All right, so we got the left and right arms on, and we have just that little bit of play in it, which should work out nice for installing the plate, which is right over here. And then here's our plate, countersunk holes. So that fits on top like this. And we drop our bolts through, nuts on the bottom, and then we can tighten everything else up. So upon further review, we're not going to tighten up this top plate or all of this yet because we're actually doing a top box kit, and there's a mounting plate that gets attached in this area, and it utilizes those same 4 countersunk holes, so it makes no sense to tighten all this up and then tomorrow when I get the top box, to loosen it all. So we're just going to leave it loose for right now. Then when we get the top box mounting kit, we will then tighten everything up. All right, we are back. We now have the rest of the parts. We have the top box mount kit, which is in here, and we got the top box, a box just below me. Special shout out goes to Rhett from Triumph Waukesha. He was running some errands up this way on his day off, and since these products came in a couple days ago, he thought he'd just drop them by for me. So thank you very much, Rhett. All right, let's open this up, and let's take a look at how Triumph packages the mount kit. Okay, and there it is. And it looks like the hardware, let's see, is the hardware in there too? We'll double check, but there's the mount kit. Let's see what else. Oh no, the hardware is hiding in here. There we go. We're all set. We got everything. All right, so just a little more information for you as I took the rest of the contents out from the box. Now I understand why there was a label on the top box mount kit, and that label said do not split, so that the top box and the top box mount kit all go together. And as I was taking things apart and looking at the hardware, so there's some of the square nuts that you need and 2 little tiny screws that hold this finishing plate on, so that's in this package. We have all the hardware basically for mounting the top plate, so these are the bolts and the nuts. And then here's what's going on in here. There's actually the key and a spare key with the lock cylinder, and that is for the top box. So we're going to install that a little bit later, but that's why those 2 pieces kind of work together. All right, so yesterday we did not fully fasten this luggage rack plate to the new handles because we knew we were going to be taking out the bolts and replacing that with new bolts because the mounting kit will fit right over the top of this. So let's see if we can just remove those bolts. There we go. Okay, we keep it lined up. We're not going to use these bolts any longer. And now we bring over the mounting kit. And what we're going to do is we're going to line this up where the holes go, which is right there. And then how this gets fastened is that we have a through bolt. It's got a 10mm head. There's a square nut that drops into the square area here. We'll drop one of those in there. There we go. And then we drop one of the bolts through like that. And then on the bottom side is we have the nut. And we'll go ahead and see if we can get that started. There we go. Just to hold that in place. Good. And then let's do another one. So we've got our square nut. We'll drop that into this place. We have our bolt. See if we can drop that through all the way. This is why you leave a little bit of play with everything as you get it lined up. Okay. All right, we're down to the last one. And we'll get that nut started. All right, so we've got the bolts dropped in, the square nuts in place, the nuts underneath, and it is lightly attached here. Before we go any further, what we want to do is we want to torque the handle bolts here. There's 4 of them. We want to torque that to the spec, which is 20 Newton meters. So we're going to do that right now. And I have the torque wrench set, so we're right on the button with that. There we go. There's 20, and we'll do the other side. All right, now that we've got the handle bolts all torqued to 20 Newton meters, it's time to torque down the mount plate. And the spec for that is at 11 Newton meters. So we got our torque wrench for that. We'll get a hold of the nut on the bottom, and let's get these all torqued properly at 11. There we go. All right, we'll get the rest of those torqued. All right, the last thing we're going to do is install this finishing cover. And there's tabs all the way around that kind of fit into some slots. And so we're going to get that fitted and in position. There, one more to go. There, all set. Now there's 2 little screws, and I've got the smallest Japanese industrial screwdriver, and here's the size of this screw, and there's 2 little holes, and that just holds it in place. So we'll do that, and we're all done with this step. All right, it's time to open up the top box. We just want to be very careful that we don't cut down deep into the box. So we're going to go on a little bit of an angle just to split this tape. There we go. Yeah, and they don't have a, mean, most of it's covered there with those flaps, but the very center is open to the top of that box, and that's why you want to be careful with that. And there we go. So we'll get this unpacked and put it up on the table, and we'll install the lock cylinder. Here's a shot of the keys that come with the top box kits. So one has got the key already inserted into the lock cylinder, and then this is your spare over here, so that's nice. And the way it's connected, let's just see here. Looks like we just maybe bend it off, wiggle it off of this. Let's see. I brought the cutters along in case we need to do that. No, I think we need to trim it, cut it. So we'll do that right at the top here. There we go. All set. All right, here's the last step in the process. We're going to mount the top box. This is the fun part. This is what we've been looking for, our case. And it slides into the mount like that. I like opening this up like this also, and then it makes it a little bit easier for just pushing down. There we go. We snap that into place. Lower that. Lock the lid. Remove the key. How about that? We got her done. Thanks for coming along today and to see how the luggage rack and the top case all get installed to the Scrambler 400 XC. So that's a wrap for today. As always, and until next time, take care.